Hello everybody, it's your pal Christopher here, and that's right, today is the final, at least for now, video of my Genshin Impact OCs videos. I've really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you guys have liked it too. I decided to go ahead and just put these two into one video, and because for the sake of my own sanity, and because I think it fits. So you all should be used to how this works by now, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy me rambling about this first new character. So as always, we're going to start with the story, and the first character here is Lola, a Claymore-wielding Anemo user from Mondstadt. You might be thinking that Anemo and Claymore shouldn't really work well together, but the whole concept for most of these characters in the series was taking combinations that the game itself hasn't really delved into. And I just felt like it would be really interesting to think and draw out what a combination of someone with an Anemo vision wielding something more heavy like a Claymore would look like. Anyway, like I said, Lola is from Mondstadt, and she is brave, courageous, and caring. She always looks out for her comrades in any fight, and she's super friendly, though she can seem a bit headstrong at first. She's also much older than you think. Before I get into her backstory, I would like to mention that the characters for these stories all exist in a sort of AU of the game, and are not supposed to actually be part of the canon. I mentioned this in the last video, but I'm just gonna say it again here. With that being said, I would imagine that Lola was actually one of the first Favonius knights, and was around when Mondstadt was first being built. She is also one of the first to receive a vision in Mondstadt. The people around her weren't really sure why she got an Anemo vision, with the way Lola was, you would think she would get like a Pyro or a Geo vision, but Lola used it as best as she could at the time. Lola was a part of a group of knights that she was very close with. But then the Archon Wars started. She, as well as the other fellow knights, fought in it, but sadly, she lost all of her closest friends. After getting pretty distraught about this, she recklessly charged headfirst into a fight, and while she was fighting, she was on the brink of losing and dying. However, a strange being saved her from this and put her in a long-lasting coma. After thousands of years, Lola woke up in a temple covered with strange vines. After going out into the world and back into Mondstadt, she began to learn how much time has passed. When she learns of this, at first she thought of joining the Knights of Favonius again. But after thinking about it, she decided not to, and instead joins the Adventurers Guild. It's there that she meets a new friend, and almost forgets about the past. But every now and then, she catches a glimpse of a strange girl from before. That's all I have for her story, and I think it works for an Anemo character, since if you have an Anemo vision, you either have or will lose someone close to you, based off of every Anemo character that we know of. So yeah, like I said before, I think the first video of the series was I was trying to base these characters' stories off of what we know about each of the vision wielders and what pattern there is, because there is a pattern with each of the vision wielders, and I don't know if I've actually gone over some of the thoughts for them. I've gone over why for Kaichi. Obviously we don't know about Dendro yet, although we will soon now that Conria is coming out. For Gaming, because he was like outcasted from his homeland. And Electrovision kind of makes sense, because a lot of the Electro vision wielders have this sort of pattern of being kind of like seen as an outcast or an odd one out sort of situation. Xavier kind of broke the rules of Pyro in the same way Diluc did, where with Pyro usually they're like happy-go-lucky and kind of like their job sort of situation. So yeah, and Geo, usually they're supposed to be some sort of, they're like very respected, but I think I covered that as well in the last video. But yeah, so yeah, with that's all I have for her story. And now on to her design. Out of all of these characters, her design was probably the hardest to get right. I wanted her to look like one of the knights, but I think it might have turned out too much like a basic knight explorer. Although looking back at the design, it's fine. It's all right. It's pretty Genshin Impact. Although I did notice that I added the lack of gold that I have on her, which is pretty disappointing. But because if you look at a lot of the Genshin Impact designs, a surprising number of them have at least some gold on them. But yeah, and also I think I might have added a bit too much green. yeah, but I don't dislike it. At first, I was a bit disappointed that it didn't make her armor look more rustic and ancient, but I actually think that it makes more sense for it not to, since she would have probably gotten her armor fixed up at this point. For her claymore, because of the pose I chose, you can't really see much of it, so that's great, but I really tried to make it look like something an animal user would use. You'll also notice that I placed her vision on her leg. I don't know why, it just seems like something she would do. But yeah, for her whole design, I was kind of going for like a whole ancient warrior slash explorer vibe. I gave her long hair with a braid in it, just cause I feel like that's pretty animo-esque, right? I mean, Venti has the braids, and I was trying to actually kind of design her look after after Barbados, and I think I did that. I made these designs a while ago now, so I don't quite remember, but I think I did that because like she might have actually like been in the know of who Barbados was. I don't know if he took the form of Venti back then, but I don't think so. But like she's seen Barbados before, and like because she served under him, her whole look was kind of based off of that. So yeah, I think that was my head thoughts for a lot of her design here. Like I said, I made these a while ago now and don't quite remember, but yeah, overall I actually think her design turned out fine, but I do wish I didn't add that much green. I struggled a bit with the drawing process with this one. I, again, couldn't quite get the colors right, so I just kept messing with those, and that took a long while. It's always with the base colors for me that I don't have a fun time with, but then I get to the shading, and then that's fine. And I don't really think the background turned out the best. I think it looks pretty flat, if especially compared to like everyone else. It doesn't really look like a 5-star background thing, you know. I was going for a more detailed ruin look with the pillars, but I hope I didn't shade them the best I could. I have a bunch of brushes that would have made them look really good, but yeah, honestly I kind of wish I did all these in Clip Studio Paint, but I didn't have Clip Studio Paint at the time I was recording these, so that's great. But anyway, I digress. I also added some butterfly shapes, which I think looks alright. Again, they look pretty flat though, so yeah. And I added some animo swirls in there because that's what you do. Again, though, the background doesn't really look like a 5-star one, it looks more 4-star than anything. But other than some of the struggles, I didn't really have much to say for this portion. That's all I have to say about Lota. Now, on to the next character. This character's name is Alexei, a cryo sword wielder who may or may not be from Snezhnaya. I'll be honest, this character was the hardest to get down as far as story and design goes, and I realized that the backstory I gave them was just a copy of the story of another character I have, so I decided to rehash it a little bit. Alexei is extremely chill and easygoing. They're best friends with Lola, who they met in the Adventurers Guild. As you can see, the vision type I gave them looks more like a Fatui delusion. This is because I would imagine that Alexei was actually a part of the Fatui at one point. However, the only reason why they decided to join is because they were looking for someone, and thought that joining them would be the best way to do that at the time. I would think that this someone was probably their sibling, and they actually suspected that the gods were the one to blame, since on the night they disappeared, they experienced some crazy magic. So at first, Alexei was pretty angry at the gods and decided that going along with the Fatui's plan would be the best. But after some time there, and after they were gifted their delusion, they felt that something didn't feel quite right about everything that they were doing. Sure enough, after probably a run-in with a powerful abyss mage, they realized it wasn't the gods who stole their sibling away, and you can probably guess who actually did. Realizing this, they quietly ran away from the Fatui to Mondstadt. They soon joined the Adventurers Guild, deciding that for the time being they could get some progress of finding their siblings, and while they're not adventuring, they live in a small cabin near Dragonspine. As you can tell from this story, I did make it a little similar to the Traveler's story, and I would imagine in-game that the two of them would also see that, and we would get some cool character dynamics there. Alexei still has a bit of a dark streak though, which I would imagine would lead to interesting situations, and although they would never join the Fatui again, I would imagine that they would have an easier time against them, since they know how they fight and stuff. And like I said, Alexei and Lola have gotten to become really good friends, so I would imagine in-game you would probably meet the two of them. I imagine something similar to Ito and the other one who I forgot the name of. I'm very sorry, I forgot her name already. Sorry about that. But yeah, and as you can tell, I don't have much for their story right now, so yeah. But speaking of the Fatui, oh my god, the new trailer. Wow, we all saw the new trailer. Oh my god, I'm scared. What's funny is, I'm going to go on a little bit of an unscripted rant right now, but what's funny is that while I was thinking about what they were going to do with Sumuru and the new Sumuru region, I was like, okay, they have to have at least a couple new Fatui members, right? Because so far they've only shown us 3. One of them is dead now, so they have to show at least a couple more of the Fatui Harbingers. Like, I suspected that they were going to show a couple of the Fatui Harbingers for each new region, or at least the next couple of regions, every other couple regions. But nah, they just straight up just came out with all of them, every one of them, they're here now. So yeah, that's cool. I was half right. I knew they were going to do something new, different with the Fatui, but just didn't suspect all of them. And yeah, and I'm not sure if anyone would be wondering this, but no, Alexei was not a Fatui Harbinger. I imagine they would be they had a similar rank to the Fatui bosses that we have to fight in games. So yeah, that's that. Although they might have had a bit of a higher rank than them, and might have known a bit more of the Saritsa's plans than the other ones, but not as much as the Harbingers, obviously. So yeah. And like I said, I don't have as much story-wise with Alexei as I do Lola, but now it is on to their design. Going into the design, I had no idea what I wanted to do for them. Again, their original concept was basically a copy of my of another character that I have, and so I kind of had them look a lot like that character. The character I was thinking of was my character Leo. This is the character on screen now, and even still the similarities are there with their design. But yeah, it was basically a copy And although some of these other Genshin OCs have been kind of loosely inspired by characters I already have, I did design Kaichi to be a bit similar to my OC New Moonstone, which I have talked about on this channel before. For the Lexi, it was just kind of like a straight copy. Yeah, so I tried to go with something a little different, and because I didn't have like a lot of reference for people from Snezhnaya at the time, I based a lot of their design on Child, and was again not sure about what color palette I wanted for them. I went with a red and blue scheme just because we don't see warmer colors on the cryo characters that much, even though that makes sense because they're cryo characters, but I thought that would have been a cool touch. I did add some more golden accents, which did help them feel more like a Genshin character. I also gave them some short, fluffy hair just because it's always fun to add to designs. Overall, I think it looks alright, but I do wish I got myself some more reference other than Child, because they do look quite a lot like Child, and I really regret, I really regret that. They kind of just do look like a cryo version of Child a little bit without the mask and the sword, but, yeah, I mean, not entirely like Child. I don't know, maybe they were friends, and maybe that's why. Although I don't know why Alexi would be friends with Child. I feel like Alexi would, very much, not like Child, because I imagine their personalities to be actually quite different. Like, Alexi's much more chill and easygoing, and not really very caught up with, the whole fighting thing as Child is. So, yeah, also much less cocky and everything. But if you look closely at the design, you'll also notice the ears and eyes I added to them to make it seem like they're not quite human. So maybe they're not actually from Snezhnaya, but from somewhere else. Maybe their story is much more similar to Travelers than it first appeared to be. Now for the art itself, it was pretty easy to create. For the background, I wanted it to resemble Dragon's Spine, since I would imagine in-game, that's where we would first meet Alexi. And I wanted it to have a generally icy look. I think that concept turned out alright. I drew them with some ice crystal-like powers, a technique I used for another Genshin Impact character drawing of mine. And other than that, I don't have much to say about the drawing process, since it went pretty smoothly. As far as character dynamics go, and I feel like how the characters, how Lola and Alexi would fight, because I know I've talked about that in my other videos before, about which one would be the main DPS or support, or whatever. I feel like Lola would be a main DPS, and Alexi would probably be a support character similar to Albedo in their gameplay style. So, yeah, that's what I have for those characters. And with that, these 2 characters are done, as well as all 7 characters. Again, this was super fun to do. I might do this again later on, especially with Sumeru coming out. Maybe I'll make some characters for that. But for now, I hope you guys have enjoyed the series. These pictures, as well as my other artworks, are on my socials linked below. I have my 2 comics on my Webtoon. Be sure to check those out, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!